and others might trickle in, but we'll get going. So if you got the email and we're looking at the schedule about what this meeting was supposed to be, what our topic was supposed to be, I changed it at the last minute, surprise. So it was going to be kind of talking about the software development process and giving you a little insight into what that process is. I'm still happy to talk about that. If folks want to hear more about it, like let me know if you want me to revisit that topic. But responding to some feedback from the community, I decided to switch this up. And instead, we're going to make this meeting about the instructor interface. So I'm going to do a demo, kind of a high-level demo of our instructor dashboard. And then we're going to follow up with an activity that our wonderful UX designer, Jess, is going to do. Basically getting feedback and from you folks in the meeting about the instructor dashboard and how we might improve it. And I think that I'm going to, in general, try to change up this meeting to be, I think it's turned into a lot of me talking at people. And then I'll like ask questions or try to, and I'm not really like doing the best job of spurring conversation. And so I think we're going to try to have a little bit more of like this feedback-based activity that Jess is so wonderful at. Oh, it's Kim Larson. Okay, so on that note, I'm just going to get into it. I'll share my screen and we'll get going. All right. So I always like to start with our working product vision, transforming higher education through the science of learning. That's what we're all trying to do here. So let's keep that in mind. And as I said, I'm going to start off with a feature demo, just a very high level demo. I could probably do like a 2-hour demo of the instructor dashboard and still skip a lot of stuff. So you are going to see that I'm going to try to focus in on the parts of this interface that give the instructors kind of feedback about what's going on in the course. And there's a lot of stuff a lot of details I'm not going to get into. And then we're going to follow up with a feedback activity led by Jess. So before I get into it, as per always, then what we demo and talk about in the next meeting can be suggested in this meeting. You can put any suggestion in the chat, or if you see someone else making a suggestion, then you can like one up that or add on to it to throw some support behind that. And that is at any point through the presentation. And I will say, especially if you're interested in instructor stuff, you're probably going to get a lot of suggestions from me, because as I go through, I'm going to be like, well, I'm not going to talk about this, and I'm not going to talk about this, and I'm not going to talk about this, because I don't have time. So everything that I don't talk about is something that you could say, hey, I want to learn more about that. Can you demo that in a future Torus community meeting? All right, so getting into the instructor dashboard, I'm just actually going to switch over here. So this is the screen that instructors will see when they first log into Torus. And, pretty basic here. I've got the courses that I'm an instructor for. Some instructors have the permission to create a new course section. I'm not really going to get into that today, but I could talk about it in a future demo. And since some instructors have a lot of courses here, then you can search. I only have 2, and I'm going to be using kind of my perennial demo course, AI generated purple unicorns, which I have made into this guy today. And I do want to point out really briefly, just because I'm going to show you how to configure this. This is our cover image that I can upload, this image with the unicorn teacher. And then I have the title. And then this is a description, and this is all configurable. I'm going to click View Course. So starting off, then there are 4 top-level tabs here, and by default, I'm on this Manage tab. I'm going to try to go pretty quickly through the Manage tab, because most of the stuff I want to focus on today is in Overview and Insights. But just kind of quickly going over this. some basic high-level information. I can preview the course as a student. We'll see also that there's places where I can kind of get into a specific page and just preview that as a student, but this is going in and previewing, from the first page as a student, from the top level. Customizing content, like removing and then adding content from another course, that could be its own whole feature demo. Scheduling could definitely be its own whole feature demo. So manage source materials here. You see I have one available. And that's showing that in our base project in the authoring interface, there's been an update that as an instructor, I can review and decide if I want to accept. I could talk about that whole process in a separate feature demo too. I am doing this demo today in our environment that's called Stellarator, and that is a staging environment. So if you log in, you're going to be logging into probably our production environment that's called Proton. So you would see Proton up here in the web address. So if you're logging into that today, you're not going to see anything here about certificate settings because certificates is a version 30 feature. You won't see it today, but you would see it on Monday when version 30 is released. So I decided to do this demo in our staging environment just because there's actually not a ton that's different in the instructor interface I'm showing between version 29 and version 30. But because there are some differences, I decided to kind of do the version that is going to be the de facto version starting Monday. That said, I did a pretty detailed demo about certificates in last month's Torus Community Meeting. You can find that on our roadmap and resource page, which I will link in the follow-up email. And in the feature demo section, you can find a whole demo of the certificates. All right, so just quickly going through some of these guys. I can invite a student, so I can create an invite link. So this is something I only want to use generally if I'm using this course in direct delivery, if students are logging directly into Torus. Many of our courses are accessed through a learning management system like Blackboard or Canvas, in which case you wouldn't be making an invite link like this. Going into edit section details. So I had talked about that title and description, and I had pointed out where that shows up in the instructor interface. I also want to just pop back because I took some screenshots from the student interface. So when a student enrolls in a course, they're going to see something very similar to what you saw on the instructor interface, where they see that cover image, the title, and the description. And also here, this is when they first are clicking into the course for the first time and they get this little introduction, then they also see a variation of the cover image. So I wanted you guys to see that too. And then we have our welcome message and encouraging subtitle. I have a screenshot for that too, for where the students see that. When they first click into the course, so they've gone through that introduction into the actual course content for the very first time, then this is what they're going to see. They're going to see that welcome message and encouraging subtitle, and then they have this link to start the course. This is only when they're first going in. So once they've actually started getting into the content, then this header section here is going to be talking about like where they are and what they might want to do next. But they'll see this when they first access the course. And the reason I wanted to highlight all this is I do think folks want to preview and be a little bit careful, because if this starts getting really long, then it starts not looking great. And if it gets like really, really long, it can actually mess with the formatting. So if I go back here into preview course as a student, you can kind of click in there and you can see that. And if you start making changes, you can kind of check out and make sure that it looks okay before you start having students in the class. This brand, by default here, it's just the regular Torus. It has to do with this image up here. If I wanted to, for instance, if this was a real chem course, I'd switch this to real chem. I'd save. It might take me a minute. And yeah, you can see up here a real chem logo. but I don't actually want this to be real chem, so I'm going to put it back to none. An institution here, this field, this has more to do, this doesn't show up in the interface. It has more to do with how the system categorizes this course. And that's particularly important if you have a paid course and there's money coming in and you want to make sure that's being handled properly. So that's what that is. I'm not going to really talk about schedule. I mean, I think that a lot of these direct, this is direct delivery. If you're not using a learning management system, you can, you know, handle some registration options. I'm not really going to talk about most of the rest of this stuff, though you can definitely ask me if you have questions. Not going to talk about browsing collaborative spaces, assessment settings. You can make a feature request for that. And I think, yeah, like the rest of this stuff, I think I'm not planning on, oh, here's where you would upload the cover image. I'm not planning on getting into the details of any of this stuff. But again, you can either ask me if you just have a question, or if you want a feature demo, let me know. And also because I had mentioned I'm not really going to be talking about notes and discussions. I'm not going to be talking about this discussion activity. That would be a whole separate demo. So with that done at whirlwind speed, I want to click into the parts I really want to spend a little bit more time on in my demo here, which I'll start in the overview tab. And you can see that there's 4 sub-tabs here. The first is course content. I had mentioned before that you can kind of get in and see different specific areas of the course. I mean, you can open these as an instructor, and you can also open them as a student. If you go back and look at the feature demos on the website, I did one a few months ago that focuses on practice pages, and that gets into like what are the differences between what a student sees and on a page and what an instructor sees. So that would be a good one if you're kind of curious about the difference here. Moving on to my student tab. Okay, so I have enrolled 3 students who are all me into the course to kind of give you a basic idea of what you might see here and have some basic data here. This is where you can add an enrollment. So before you saw that you had the invite link if you just want to distribute, you know, more broadly to students. This one you could actually add someone as a student or as an instructor. You can filter here by default where you're going to see students who are enrolled. You could also see students in other states, and I don't know why this says non-student. It's just the instructor of the course. I don't know if there are any other types of non-students. But looking at our enrolled students, we have some basic information here. When were they last involved? What kind of progress have they made? You can see this is like a low progress, so it's highlighted in red. What is their overall course proficiency? And of course, they're all students. I don't really need to use these filters because I only have 3, but you can imagine if I had many more students, I might want to see who are my low progress students. I might want to see, okay, who's everyone who's below 70% progress. I might want to see, in my case, these are all medium, but filter that way, or just look for somebody by name. So you've got some capability there to kind of find the students that you want. And you can click in and get this student report. I see my average score, my course completion, and some different information here. I can now dig in a little bit more to how the student is doing in the units, or like getting a little more granular, the modules of the course. I can break this down by learning objective. I am going to say I have not done a great job of setting up learning objectives for my dummy course. And I do realize not only did I not set up any sub-objectives, which would definitely make this page more interesting, but I also know from Kim Larson and others that when I do make my dummy learning objectives, they are bad learning objectives. This would actually, I think, be a really cool topic for a future meeting, is let's really get a course where we can look at where this is set up really well and actually dig into how the learning objectives break down. But here I'm just kind of showing you what the page looks like. I can also, if I just want to see, if I have objectives that go with specific modules of the course, I can filter by that too. Getting into quiz scores, this is obviously for this specific student, just showing all of the scored pages and what are the scores. I can click into this and I can get, more detailed information on what happened with that student attempting that assessment. Wait, I just backed myself out. Yeah, I can see quiz scores. I can see more granular, progress information and, looking throughout the content of the page. And then actions is just where I would go to either unenroll a student, or if I happen to accidentally enroll like an instructor as a student, I could flip them there. As I go through this, I probably should have mentioned this already. I'm not great at following in the chat if people have questions while I'm screen sharing. So please just shout out if you have an answer. I like at any point, you don't have to wait. Right, if you have a question. Okay, so that was my, digging in for the specific student report. This quiz scores is, I had already shown the page where you can dig into quiz scores for one specific student. This is just showing as a grid, like all of the students in the course and all of the scored pages. And like a lot of things, you can just also download this if you want to look at it in a spreadsheet format as opposed to here. And again, these are links where you can dig in. And then for recommended actions, it's telling me I haven't set a schedule for the course, which I might not want to. And it's also, if you remember, I had that pending course update, so it's kind of reminding me about that. So that's our overview tab. And then finally, I'm going to go into this insights tab. This focuses a little bit, whereas before we were looking at like how are students doing in this course, we are definitely getting some of that information here, but it's kind of more focused on what's going on with the course content and maybe giving some information that we might be able to use to adapt or improve the course content. So starting off looking at what is the progress and proficiency for different sections of the course. Again, I can stay at the unit level or get down into a module level.
Amanda, how's the proficiency buckets measured, I guess?
So this is actually something that we've been talking about. As of right now, it is doing kind of an average. And I don't know how useful it is to say, like, right now, it's not really letting you break down into like, okay, that's medium proficiency. What does that mean? I think it's actually a little nicer if you look in the learning objectives page, we have this more graphical breakdown where it kind of tells you more, like this is how it, but like the students, 33% of the students are at high proficiency. I find that more useful. I think it might be like something that we might improve in the future if people want it, is actually doing a graphic like that here as well, so that to me, saying medium proficiency, it's really hard to know what to do with that information. I mean, another thing that I think would be nice here, it does kind of give you a little information here. I don't know why it doesn't have a little, I think it would be nicer if it had that like this, but it's just telling you that, it's basically like aggregating all of that. I don't think that this is actually the most useful thing right now.
Gotcha, thank you.
That could be something people bring up when we do our feedback exercise. All right, yeah, looking by learning objective, then we do, again, I don't have sub-objectives. My learning objectives are pretty boring, but we have, again, that kind of aggregated sense of proficiency. And then we have this graphic that's helping you, break down, what's actually happening in the course. And again, you can filter this by a module. I have these two pages for scored and practice activities, giving you kind of at the activity level some stats, and then you can also dig into this, get a little bit more information about, so my, just to be very clear, like my assessments I set up are very boring, but you know, you can kind of see here like who responded to what and get a little bit more information about each activity. And then for practice activities, I honestly don't know why we have average score and total, like that doesn't actually make a ton of sense to me, but you can see just for the practice activities, like who's making progress through it. And again, surveys, there would be information like that, I think would be a great future feature demo. I wasn't gonna dig into that. So I was hoping to keep this demo at around 20 minutes. I think I probably, maybe I think I probably went over, but before I pass things off to Jess to get feedback from folks, does anyone have any questions, or is there something you want me to click back to or get into while I have this up?
Yes, I have a question. Just generally, I am interested in the branding part of I don't know if that's something that our learning engineers have talked about. I don't know if that's something that we do or you do or how to follow up on that, but I just wanted to sort of flag it.
That is something that would happen on the admin end, so you would just let us know that I mean, definitely you would just, you know, we would just you would just let us know what you want us to set up and we would set it up for you.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
I don't know that anyone, I don't think that any of you folks are admins. Yeah, but
Okay,
we can just talk about it and get it set up.
thanks.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing. Any other questions before I move on? Oh, I see some stuff in the chat here. Oh, yeah, how a student. Thank you. It is a stellar name. I don't come up with the names of our servers, but I think that they're all named after either, I think they're all named after some kind of like physics particle, like collider. I don't know. It's something really nerdy that I don't understand.
I mean, I'd expect nothing less from CMU. So.
Well, I mean, you should expect that it's something nerdy that I do understand. Like that I can, you know, have to hold myself back from getting deeply into an explanation. So maybe I need to dig more into that. All right, with no further ado, then I'm going to pass the screen over to our wonderful UX designer, Jess Fortunato, to lead us in a activity.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. And you keep saying wonderful, so I hope that this activity is wonderful.
Our absolutely fantastic, amazing UX designer, Jess, who makes me feel faint because she's so good.
That is more like, thank you. So I'm gonna do an activity with you all, and there's a link to go to it. So let me put that in the chat. And you shouldn't need an account or anything. It's on Figma, which is just kind of like a collaborative workspace. So I'll just wait a second, and I will also share my screen. Okay. So I have two activities here for us. The first one, it's going to take about like 10 minutes, depending on, you know, when people finish, is kind of looking at an instructor archetype. So if you're familiar with, you know, companies having personas, they're just trying to get into the mind of like, okay, what is my user thinking? What are they doing? What motivates them? I'm not sure who here today is an instructor and who is not. So we have two different sticky notes. So if you're an instructor, great. You can grab a blue one. If you're not, also great. We're going to have you go on the yellow ones and say, you know, I'm not an instructor, but I'm making an assumption based on my own experience. Or maybe I work with instructors, or maybe I just know like who an instructor is. So I'm just going to give us like 8 minutes. And if you want to go through here, we have some different categories. So one is goals. So like what goals are you trying to achieve by using Torus as an instructor? Second one we have is needs and expectations. What do you need or expect when teaching a course on Torus? Maybe, you know, when teaching a course in general. Influences, what are your main influences for using Torus for instruction? And then down here we have motivations, what motivates you as an educator? pain points and frustrations. Is there anything, if you're a current user of Torus, that, currently frustrates you about that, or just about teaching a course in general? And then lastly, your interests. Like, what interests you in Torus, in your course, in your overall learning or teaching journey? So we're just going to go through that. And then the second activity I have some designs here for our, like that insights page that Amanda just showed. And these designs are not finished. They might look a little finished, but they're not. So we're going to just go through them, and I'll explain that activity next, but you can give me feedback on them. Does anyone have any questions before starting on this section over here? Okay, awesome. And yeah, to use Figma, you just kind of can drag around the screen and can click into a sticky note and type on it. So I will start a timer. Let's do 5 minutes at first, actually, and see what that gets us. And then if we need more time, I'll add more time. And here we go. Also, if you can't access Figma, you can feel free to put something in the chat. Okay, so our time is up. I'll let people finish up what they want to finish up real quick. Okay. Awesome. And so we could do this like one of two ways to kind of share what we wrote. One, if you like sharing, you can actually share what you wrote, or two, I can just kind of go through and summarize what we're seeing here. So I'll go to our first board, which is goals. Does anyone want to share what they wrote here? Okay, don't worry, I will share. So we have tracking learning gains across courses, easily set up my course in an organized way, be able to build my content and easily align it across my instructional material, and understand how my learners are doing and where I can help them best. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to go to our needs and expectations. So it seems like we expect some multimedia and mobile integration, reasonably so. Easily able to integrate external materials that I have into the shell and be able to find all of the tools I need and able to use them without confusion. And this integrating external materials is interesting because we might have some capabilities for that coming up. So. Okay, influences. So yeah, why are you using Torus? CMU platform, close collaboration, learning sciences focus, having data at my fingertips, nice, very poetic, and the reputation of CMU being the builder of the platform, nice. Okay, so what motivates you as an educator? Setting proper learning expectations for a satisfying experience, building effective learning experiences and seamless UX, that also motivates me, UX, and then helping learners achieve aha moments, helping learners achieve their learning goals, and getting to teach in general. Awesome. Okay. Here we have a big category. So pain points and frustrations. Change of scoring model implies need to recalculate and resync with LMS. Progress explanation, what have they done? What haven't they done? Parity. Scored pages don't explain the terms to students. Time limit, due date, scoring model. And then I think we actually have just updated that. So on the like assignment launch page, there is more information about that. And then students cannot see available dates for scored pages, better integration, communication between scheduling interface and assessment settings. We do have plans and some designs for that, which I'm excited about. Progress as a scored metric, passing to scorebook and LMS, a better learning model, smiley face, instructor view of student assessment experience, non-activity banks, and then scores sync is imperfect. Figuring out how to deal with AI and how students use it. Scoring models appear broken and motivating my students. So this is some great information just to keep in our bank of, hey, what can we improve? Does anyone want to elaborate on any of these pain points or?
For me, the motivation one as a whole is just like motivation, engagement. It's like, we have a great platform with Torus, but how do we actually keep them engaged in that platform? And I think a lot of that comes with just like how the instructor actually designs everything within it. But yeah, it's a tough problem.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And then lastly, we have one over here in interest. How can I use technology to hopefully become a better teacher? Which is great.
I love that one.
Yes. Awesome. So thanks everyone who participated in that. Is there anything anyone else wanted to mention regarding to this activity? If not, I will move on to actually showing some designs. I see the chat. Oh, bye Kim. Thanks for joining. Okay, then let's move on over here. So now we're going to get a chance to actually see like what some of the designs look like currently for a future iteration of our instructor dashboard, specifically the analytics and that like insights tab. And I have some instructions over here. So, you know, like I said, these are not finished. They might look updated, but they're not. And your feedback is welcome and appreciated. These are some different stickers that you can use, and I can make some more copies of them real quick. But to copy something in Figma too, you just select it, and then you know you can Control C, Control V, paste it. But just to make this easier, I'll put some down here. So yeah, I will just walk through this, and as I'm walking through it, if you want to follow me and, you know, place a question mark if you have a question about something, a little light bulb if you have an idea like, hey, maybe we could add a visualization here also, or explain something else here. If you're excited about something, there's a thumbs up. And if you're concerned about something like, hey, this is a red flag, why are we exploring this idea? There's this little caution symbol. And then after I kind of go through them, we can see if there's any stickers on them and just revisit each one of those and get a chance for feedback. Are there any questions before I begin walking through these? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to start here at the Insights and Content tab that we were looking at. So some of the updates is just kind of cleaning up some of our UI and adding some like different table colors so that it's easier to read, a little easier on the eyes, and standardizing the different filters that we have. So here I'm going to click into a unit like chemical reactions, and I'm going to see that list of students that is associated with that unit. And I'm also going to see that I can like navigate up here to the previous unit. Next unit would be the same for if I had this on the module. Same thing, adding a couple different things to the table here. And then also make this like a select interface where, say that I see that Chandler Bing is not, you know, progressing through the course well right now, I could select and I could send him an email. So do some like intervention right through there. And then we go to, here's me just showing that we can select things. I have 4 selected. And then when I would email someone, this modal kind of pops up, presenting like a couple template ideas like, hey, this is to remind you, you haven't completed this. I could edit that, or I could just type an entirely new message and send that email. There could also be like an option to copy the email if you don't want to send it right from Torus. But that is some changes to this Insights content area. So now when we go to the learning objectives, some changes here, once again, just like standardizing the look of our tables, and then adding these like filters where I can filter out like low proficiency skills, the sub-objectives or outcomes for like the main learning objective. I can navigate again using the navigation up here. This could be a drop down where I can kind of go to different places, different modules in the course. So let's say that I click on the first one. Another update here is like adding a lot of different like hover and selected states to our tables and mapping the information that is associated with it like right underneath, which is something we don't do exactly right now. But so here we have that proficiency distribution we were looking at earlier. If I were to expand that, this design kind of expands on that and shows where, you know, some students fall in the not enough data, low, medium, high, and then it also shows the associated sub-objectives or skills with that. Now let's say that I click into like the low learning estimate over here. It will then give me a list of students who are represented, you know, by those dots and show me like, oh, okay, well, there were 5 activities associated with this learning objective and they only did 1 or they only did 2. So kind of digging into some more stats there. Some of these stats might not be relevant. You might want to see different things here. So feel free to, you know, use the stickers or give any feedback on that. And then same thing here, I could select students and I could send them an email from here. Then lastly, this is just showing like if I were to filter the skills, it's going to show me the skills underneath. Okay, so now going to the scored activities tab. Once again, updating some things on the tables, adding like standard filters. And then I click into a scored page. I can then see all of the questions. And I have some filters on here where I can see like low or no attempts, low accuracy. Now, one thing I am interested in here too, like this average score to me wouldn't be a filter. So I'm not sure what people might expect seeing that there, or if they want to see an average score. And then with all of these, yeah, I could also download information from the page. So let's say that I click on this second question here. We would then be presented with the answer distribution and like some information on first try correct, eventually correct. And this would look different, of course, for different questions, but for like a multiple choice question, we can show this visualization here. And one idea is also to show like different versions of the questions in case they're updated. Not sure if that's something that might be more useful to an author rather than an instructor, but that's an idea right now. And then also adding this notes section where you can write in notes like, oh, I need to look at this question more. Students are having difficulty with this, and having the ability to kind of flag the question, maybe for review, which would then add a little flag here. And then the last two screens taking a look at, so here's that survey interface. And right now it shows scores and different attempts associated with the surveys, but you can't really get a score on a survey unless someone comments something that they would like to see that. So this design kind of updates that, just having, the survey name and having it open up to the information that was in the survey, the different results. And then this is what our Likert visualization looks like right now. And lastly, updating the quiz scores, which I believe is actually in the overview, but just updating the table to standardize it a little more. And then when I would click in to see an attempt, there originally was feedback that people wanted to see this in a table. So if anyone has any comments on that, let me know. But then I could click into this attempt and go into the actual student interface. But here you can just see some of the information like, oh, okay, in this attempt, they took this much time, they got this score, and etc. So that was me walking through the designs. Does anyone have anything they want me to revisit before I visit our stickers, or I can just give like a minute for that all to soak in? Okay, then I see that we have some stickers here. So we have the light bulb and the thumbs up. Does anyone want to talk about like what their idea might be for the section?
Yeah, so I gave both the thumbs up and the light bulb on this one. I really like the idea of flagging a question to come back to. I think the thing is like once I leave this, oh, I probably forgot where I put that flag. So like having some other place to like know all the places I flagged at some point could be super helpful, just so I don't have to keep track of them by going back through every assignment that I have.
Yeah, that is a great point too, because once take the first step to flag it, then I wonder where you're gonna find it again to actually improve it. So awesome. Thanks for leaving that feedback there. And then I think I saw, so we have a thumbs up here as well. Does anyone want to elaborate on that, or is it just a good thumbs up?
Yeah. Again, I just like the actual breakdown of like being able to see which yeah, just what the distribution of selection is, especially if it's might even be helpful to call out, especially if like say E was much higher than D. It's like, oh, students probably have a strong misconception here. Might want to particularly flag that because most of them selected this one and it's wrong.
Yeah,
Could
definitely.
also be a flag that, oh, is there a problem with this question as well? Like, because a bunch of people chose E and it's not actually E. Is it a problem with the question, or is it just a misconception?
Yeah, and this visualization kind of helps you notice that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And then, oh, we just have a big question on this page. And we have, will we be able to leave custom feedback? We have a lot of similar wrong answers on text questions. It would be nice to see them all once and leave feedback for a bunch. So whoever left this, do you want to speak to it real quick?
Okay, so I'm actually grading midterms right now, and I have to go through and page through each individual attempt to look at the same questions, and there's going to be like 10 out of 30 that have the same wrong answer or close enough. I'd love to be able to see all of the stuff, like each attempt doesn't need to have identities attached to it or anything, just all the answers, especially for the text questions, because these are like type in your own thing. And, you know, you get 14, let's say the answer is butterfly. 14 people type butterfly. 4 of them type butterfly, spelled wrong or something. And, you know, all the rest type moth. You want to be able to select all the people who say moth and say, no, it's butterflies, not moths, because X. And you type in whatever. And you apply that to all of those at a go. It would save so much time and really lower my stress levels if I could do it that way. It would make grading just not awful.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the grading, let me show real quick. So like if you had a input answer, like something would look like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll look at this for while we're talking. I believe that, yeah, actual manual grading happens in a different interface, and someone yell at me if I'm wrong, but in the manage page, there is like a manual grading link. So I think there is, yes, okay. So yeah, I think what you're asking and suggesting then is, yeah, kind of attach, you know, seeing the answers to where I can grade and leave feedback, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which,
So
yeah.
if I misunderstood the screenshot there, then put that comment wherever it belongs in manual grading stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Just write it down real quick. I would say attach answer distribution to where I am actually grading.
Yes. Okay.
Feedback. Yes, but great call out there.
Thank you. Okay, that was all for that one. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And then, okay, I think I see, I should have used like way brighter stickers. Oh, okay, I see a lot of stickers, great. I was thinking there were like 3. So here we have an idea on the low or no attempts filter. Does anyone want to elaborate on that?
Me again. So in this one, in some ways, I'm more worried about the opposite of like a super high amount of attempts, maybe high attempts and short amount of time that might indicate like a gaming behavior, like they're just clicking through real quickly to see if to try and get to the right answer. Like if they're like no attempts is a problem as well, but low attempts, I'm also like, okay, so they got it right in a low number of attempts. I don't necessarily want to flag that. So yeah, kind of like the no attempts and the super high attempts with low amount of time. I think are probably my two higher issue ones.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting because this design does not, cover that. It's only the low spectrum there. So great.
Well, also, I mean, so you could just like, you know, in the filters underneath there, you could just pick, you know, a higher number of attempts and filter that way. But you're also saying, Mark, what I'm hearing is that it would be helpful to have a time element in it as well. Is that right? Like that they're just kind of clicking through and going through really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I know time data is super messy, but like kind of the combination of the high attempts and low amount of time, I think tells a story of that gaming behavior.
Mhm.
Awesome. So let's go up here. I see also we only have like 5 minutes left, but if we start at learning objectives, we have a question mark right here with the either the clear all filters or proficiency. Does anyone want to elaborate?
Yeah, and I was just curious what the filter options are.
Yeah, so good question. I could have shown that. That exists right now in the system, and Amanda, I'm not sure.
It's just a drop down that says you can pick low, medium, or high,
Yeah.
and see
Mhm.
only folks that have that.
Gotcha.
Okay, then we have a thumbs up here, but then we also have a question on the sub-objectives. Does anyone want to speak to that?
Yeah, and I guess I was just wondering if there was a way to do that dig in with the sub objectives as well, or just the overarching objective.
Yeah, so right now there's no design for that, but if that's something that users are interested in, that's something we could include. So
Yeah, I mean, I get that would get really messy really quickly in the UI if you started having those those visualizations for everything. Yeah, and I guess it really depends on how you set it up. I'm sure most people are only interested at the learning objective level. So like I could see arguments for and against. Just curious, really.
yeah, and something to keep in mind, like when we're user testing these designs too, like, yeah, are people using that more? If they want it, then yeah, we might look into a way of how to kind of collapse that and that it doesn't take up the whole screen. And then we got another thumbs up here. And I think, I think that is it for learning objectives. And
Jess, because we only have a few minutes left, I might wrest control from you just because I kind of have a couple of closing up thoughts. I definitely thank you everyone who put feedback there and who participated in the post-it note activity. It's really great to hear back from folks. So I want to, where am I? I have too many things going on right now. Here. So I just want to wrap things up by saying that, I mean, first of all, are there just any final questions before we, before I kind of move the meeting into a close? Oh, Mark, you want to follow up? Oh, yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that, Mark. And thanks again for all your great feedback. So next month's meeting is going to talk about the mobile experience for students. There is some limited capability now for students to use mobile devices, but there's a couple places where it's don't give me hearts yet, Mark, because there's some places where it's a pretty awful experience. We actually made a couple of tweaks just in version 30 that's coming out on Monday. Yeah, that's probably more accurate. That a couple of the biggest pain points for folks using mobile devices, I think, we made some very quick changes, but actually our big push is going to be not in version 31 that we're working on now, version 32 that is going to be happening later this year. But we have some really wonderful mobile designs. We have a UI designer named Heather who has been working with us to make improvements. So we can kind of talk through some of those designs. And I also just want to get feedback from folks on how, in their experience, are students interacting on a mobile device? Are there certain specific things that they're doing? And maybe get some feedback on those mobile designs. I will send a follow-up email. It will have the recording for this meeting. It will have the roadmap snapshot for this month, which I didn't talk about in the meeting, but it's up on the website. I will, of course, point to our resource section where we have all of those feature demos, where we have everything our blog posts and release dates and things like that. And then on Monday we have version 30 coming out. So we're at 1:30. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend and rest of your day.
Thanks
Thank you
all.
all. Have a good
Take
weekend.
care. Good luck Monday.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good luck.